Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this video as it drops, I hope you're having a great weekend. Today I'm really excited to be sharing with you my review and my thoughts on the newly released Ruins of Skaro set from Character Options, celebrating the Destiny of the Daleks serial from the 1970s. This of course was a Tom Baker serial and just happens to be actually one of my favourites. We've actually had a number of different releases celebrating this story from Character Options in the past, so what makes this set so special? Well, it actually finally introduces a new villain in action figure form for the very first time, which is of course the Movellans, and also features a highly anticipated re-release of a very difficult to get hold of Special Dalek. So without further ado, let's kick off by taking a look at the packaging. As you would expect, it is mostly window display, but around the edges we have the new Doctor Who logo, we have the new branding, which we've seen on some of the recent B&M sets, and I really like this. It's much brighter, it's much more colourful, and it's much more evocative of the show, I feel. I was really tired of the grey and dark blue hues that we've seen for so long. So I personally really welcome seeing the TARDIS logo there, and having the blue and white. I think this is really striking and looks really good. And then of course we see the action figures inside, which look pretty awesome as well. This makes a really nice display piece all by itself. If we look at the side panel, we can see again the Doctor Who logo here, we can see the description of the set, and there's not an awful lot else going on. It's a little bit more colourful than we've had in recent years, but it's still nothing particularly exciting. However, when we look at the reverse of the packaging, we have a little bit of information about the story, a little bit of a synopsis there, but we also have some information about the behind the scenes production stories as well, which is kind of interesting and a little bit different to what we get on toy packaging usually. You'll also notice we have, and I believe this is an absolute first for Character Options, a special photo shoot image of these figures with a really cool diorama. I think this looks absolutely fantastic. I only wish this was slightly larger because I think this is such a wonderful image. This would have made a really great display piece in its own right. And that's not all, because I'm delighted to say that the interior card inlay, the mini diorama, is back. We haven't seen this for a while, so I'm really pleased that Character Options have returned to this, because they do such a good job at these, actually. I have to say, they do a really nice job of reconstructing scenes or elements from the serial, and I think this one's particularly successful. It's really nice that we're obviously on board the Movellen spaceship here. We have this big screen image of Davros, which is pretty cool, and we can see there is a weapon rack there as well, and various different computer screens, even an image of the spaceship on the top monitor there as well, which is a very nice touch. The other detail that I really love and I think is really well thought out is the actual scuff marks, the footprints on the floor there, which is obviously taken from Skaro because it's a very dirty, muddy planet, and that's obviously been traipsed into the ship, so I think that's a really cool extra little detail that's been really nicely thought through. So first up, let's take a look at this Bomber Dalek. Now this is a special Dalek because it's kind of unique in that it has these extra little bombs on its side panels, which is something we've never seen before or since in the show. And I should point out that this Dalek has been released just once before in a very special 4th Doctor adventure set from Character Options going back at least 15 years, I think. It's been a very long time. I know a lot of people missed this set, including myself, first time around, and although the other figures in the set have been released several times since, this Bomber Dalek never has. So this is a very welcome second chance to pick this Dalek up, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are going to be absolutely delighted to finally get this one in their collection. And I have to say, it's a pretty cool one to have because it is so much different to other Daleks. Now, we've had many Daleks from Character Options over the years, and most of them are pretty much the same figure with just very minor changes to paint apps here and there, for the most part. However, this one really stands out because of those plastic bombs that have been stuck onto the side there, and they're really bright and colourful and very distinctive. Otherwise, there's not too much separating this Dalek from the other Destiny of the Daleks in the serial. They have the black chest piece, they have the black plunger, and the rest of it is pretty much a matte grey. I did want to point out that on mine you will notice that there's been a bit of a sloppy paint application on the actual eye stalk. The actual eye in the stalk itself is a little bit off-centre to say the least, which is a little bit disappointing and perhaps one for Character Options to watch in their quality control in future. The other thing I wanted to point out about this Dalek, which I do really like, is that at the bottom of the skirt you will notice there is actually this wonderful wash of silver running over the black paint, which looks absolutely fantastic to make it look like it's been scuffed and seen a bit of action, because of course famously Daleks were looking a little bit battered by the time this serial was produced, but I think this works really well for this story and it works absolutely fantastically on this figure. In terms of articulation, there is a straight swivel at the top of the dome there, allowing the head to move from side to side. There's also a hinge at the top of the eye stalk, allowing the eye to move up and down. There's a ball joint in both the plunger and the gun arm, allowing that arm to rotate all the way around in any direction you like, which is really nice. And then there are some wheels on the very base of the Dalek, allowing it to move forwards and backwards however you like it to, which is pretty cool. Next up, we have the Movellans, and this is very exciting, as I said, because this is their debut in action figure form anywhere, anytime, so this is a first and pretty cool. Now, this is the same figure replicated twice, there's just two different heads. And for what it's worth, whilst I don't think these are meant to be specific Movellans that we see in the serial, I do think that the one on the left actually has a pretty good likeness to one of the Movellans we do see on screen. I'm not sure if this is a happy accident or intentional, but hey, it looks really, really good. And we can see here that actually they've done a really nice job sculpting these heads and indeed the costumes as well. They've done a really good job of getting all the little details, and even the paint washes in particular, especially on the hair and in the face there, is really impressive. It's nice that there's a number of washes running through, and they've got the silver detailing around the edges of the hair as well, and the braids there, which looks really good. I like the silver paint that they've used for the collar and the chest, and I really, really like the shoulder pieces. I'm not entirely sure what these are. They look like spirit levels, but they look colourful and they look really well sculpted. They look perfectly in proportion, and they've done a great job. I also have to commend Character Options for their level of texturing in this figure, because they've actually used a number of different plastics and different material types to create a different texture and feeling, and just add a lot more depth to the figure overall. So we have some fantastic paint apps, as I've already pointed out, but you'll also notice that the legs are made of a different plastic. They're more of a shiny, more metallic kind of gleaming plastic, which catches the light really nicely, which is in stark contrast to the matte of the tunics that they're wearing, and indeed the boots. And speaking of the boots, the other thing I wanted to point out, which again is a really cool little touch, is you will notice on the soles of the boots there at the very bottom, they are scuffed, that there is a little hint of orange or yellow being applied. Of course, this is the sands of Skaro, so it's really nice that they thought that through. Articulation wise, there is a straight swivel at the top of the neck, and thankfully the hair is no barrier. The head can spin from side to side without issue. There's a ball joint in the shoulder which will allow the arm to lift up to about 45 degrees, which is pretty decent. The arm will also lift up straight forwards and backwards on a swivel there as well, and there is a pin swivel at the elbow, which is kind of unusual and quite pleasing to see. So the arm will spin all the way around, and it will also hinge to, again, maybe 45 degrees if we're lucky. There's not a huge amount of give here, which is a shame, but hey, it's still pretty cool to see. There's another swivel at the wrist, allowing the hand to rotate all the way around, and I think there's a swivel at the waist, but this is very restricted. I'm not able to get an awful lot out of this. There's a hinge in the hips, allowing the legs to kick out to the side. There's a complementary thigh swivel. The legs will also kick forwards, and they'll go back a tiny bit as well. And then finally, you'll notice there is a single joint at the knee, allowing that lower leg to bend to about 90 degrees. I'm also delighted to say that these figures come with an accessory, which is of course the Movellan weapon blaster. I'm not quite sure what it's called, to be honest, but it's a very cool prop and it's lovely to see it replicated here. And they have no problems holding this in their grip, so you can either put this in either hand, both work easily, and there's no resistance here at all, and they both look pretty cool. So I have to say, I'm actually thrilled with these. I think they've done a really, really good job with them, and yeah, they look brilliant. And if you're wondering how they scale against the Dalek, here they are standing together. As you can see, the Movellans stand just slightly taller than the Dalek, and that is exactly how it should be. These look really good together, but these are not the only figures that you can get from Destiny of the Daleks from Character Options, because of course we've had a History of the Dalek set celebrating this story with an extra couple of Daleks that you can throw in there. There was also a Destiny of the Daleks special collector's set going back, at least 10 years ago, probably longer, maybe 15 years ago, which actually had Davros, the Fourth Doctor, and a couple of Daleks thrown in there for good measure as well. And that's not all, because we also have a Romana specific to this story from the Companions of the Fourth Doctor B&M exclusive set a few years ago, Romana in her pink coat there. So as you can see, we actually have now a pretty complete collection celebrating the Destiny of the Daleks. So then, final thoughts from me, and a star rating. I'm going to give this 4 stars out of 5. You might be wondering why I've removed 1 star, since I'm clearly very emphatically passionate about this set and very, very pleased with it. Well, overall, it's a fantastic set. I love all the little details. I love that we're getting these mixed characters, brand new characters in the Movellans. I think they've done a fantastic job of these characters. I like the articulation for the most part. I like the accessories. I like the paint apps. And I love that we have a second chance to get this very cool Dalek. So all in all, that's all lovely. Where I'm slightly critical, it's on little things like the paint apps on the Dalek. Now, this might just be specific to me, I'm sure it probably is, but nevertheless, this is the one I have in hand, and my Dalek has a bit of a lazy eye, which isn't how it's meant to look. This isn't what we see on screen, so I'm a little bit disappointed every time I see it, and I go, that doesn't feel quite right. The other issue for me, I think, is the fact that we have 2 female Movellans, but it would have been nice if maybe we'd had one of the male Movellans as well. That would have been a really cool touch, and it would feel like the story is pretty complete by that point. The other issue is the arm articulation on the Movellans. Whilst I really like that we have that pin swivel in the elbow, it does feel quite restrictive. It doesn't bend to 90 degrees, which is a bit disappointing. Other than that, it's a lovely set, and I think you're going to be very, very happy with it. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.